Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Good afternoon, Tommy.
Good afternoon.
And welcome all to Legends of the 70s podcast. Joining me today is a total legend, a fella that played over 1,000 games in the beautiful game and played it beautifully, I must add, Mr. Thomas Hutchison. How are you, Tom?
Very well, thanks.
And you were christened Thomas. We all know you as
Yes.
Tommy on the 22nd.
I've been called a few other names,
Yeah,
mine.
absolutely, haven't we all? 22nd of September 1947, which makes you 75 years young, in Fife,
Exactly.
Scotland. Cordon-Dur, is that how you pronounce the area that you were born, Tommy?
I was born, strangely enough, it comes under Cardenden.
Got ya.
It's Cardenden, but I was actually born in Dundonald, which is sort of a little village. Cardenden covers about 4 little villages round, all mining places roundabout, and Dundonald was one.
So your upbringing in those early days, your schooling, was you clever at school? Was you academic, or was you more into your sport? Where did you get your football from? Your dad's side, your mum's side?
Probably my mum's side.
Yeah.
My dad's side, none of them had anything to do with football. My mother's side, there's a couple of them played. In fact, one of my uncles who I never met, my Uncle Dave, he actually got killed playing football. He got kicked in the privates, and in those days, he just, nothing was done about it and everything. But he did die when he was 21.
Do you? Terrible. What's your earliest football memories, Tommy? Playing football and then going to football. Did you play at school for the district, for the county?
Well, strangely enough, when I was at school, the junior school, obviously, I was I wasn't very bulky when I got older, but I was quite skinny. And at one stage, my mother took me to the hospital in Edinburgh, the Children's Hospital, because I was so thin, because I could eat, but she was just a bit worried about it. And I can remember they gave me all the tests in Edinburgh, and the doctor says to my mum, "Excuse me, dear, but how tall is your husband?" And my dad was about 5'6", the same as my mum. And he says, "Well, you can't expect a crow from 2 sparrows, can you?" And that was it. And again, when I went to the secondary school, which again, academically, I just did what I need to do, I think, and usual reports, could do better. Usually if I'd attended oftener.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually play at school. In fact, I used that when I went into the football and the community side of it. When I was coaching kids in schools, is that if I had any turmoil with the kids and calling names at each other and you're useless, you're hot, and I used to sit them down and say to them, "Look, I played X amount of games at top level. I played in an FA Cup final. I played in the World Cup final. And by that time, I've got them all quiet now, because they're listening." And I says, "I never played at school. Why do you think I never played at school?" Of course, was you ill? Or did the teacher not like you? I says, "No, I didn't play at school because it was useless." I says, "But if you work hard and try and you will get better. So there's no good use all shouting at each other for he's rubbish or that. If you work hard, that's what you'll get." And really, that's what I did do in theory. I used to, over the local football club, which was about 200 yards away from my mum's house, was a five junior club called Dundonald Bluebell, which is where I started. And we were my friends, we used to go and watch the games on a Saturday. And there was one day we played, we were along, I'd be about 15 at that time. And again, I hadn't played at school. Mind you, Billy Johnson was at the school at the time. So it was quite difficult to get in the team. So we went along, and at Dundonald, it was a junior men's football, and the local team that played, the team was picked in the local pub at lunchtime. So they picked the team and everything, but when they got to the ground, which was about 10 minutes walk from the pub, seemingly four of the players who came from Metal, which is about 20 miles away, their car had broke down, so they couldn't get there. So they were short of players. And one of the committee boys that were on it was my uncle, and he shouted to me, and I got called Tam at that time. He says, "Tam, go and get your boots. You can get a game." So I came, and that's how I first started. That was really organised football was the first thing I did there.
Wow. I didn't realise that, because you take it for granted they're all great players, started playing football at school, etc., etc. But you literally stumbled into playing football with your pals because a car broke down.
Yeah.
How did you then get into the pro game? Because you signed for Alloa in 1965, didn't you?
I played for the Bluebell.
Yeah.
For a couple of years, and I think it would be about a couple of years, 1966, 67, something like that.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I had a couple of trials. I had a trial down at Blackburn, and that didn't come to anything. Which I had a trial down at Oldham, and Oldham was a good one for me for when I went to work in the schools, because when I went to Oldham, I thought I'd play quite well. But again, when I went down there, it was men against boys for me. I was still very, very slim and I couldn't take corners because I couldn't reach.
Yeah.
And I played quite decent in the game, but I got a letter. Jimmy McElroy was the manager at the time. And he said, I had the letter from him saying that he thought that I had good skill and ability, but probably wouldn't be strong enough to play league football. And I kept that letter. And again, similar to what I said about the kids about not playing at school, is I kept that letter, and I told them that when I had any trouble with them, that letter, I could have taken it two ways. I could have listened to him and give up, or I could have set up to prove him wrong. I say, so you've got a choice. And the choice that I took was the opposite. And that really worked, I think, with the kids, is that as long as you've got an opportunity. And again, I had a trial with Dundee United, and a similar thing was there. And again, as I said, my dad wasn't football minded or anything, but he took me up to Dundee. And after the game, we played Dunfermline Athletic reserves. It was in a reserve game, and again, I was men and boys really. And after the game, I didn't play very well at all. Went in for a cup of tea, and I could always remember the old dear that was in. She was pouring the teas out, and but she never lifted her head up. She just says, "How did you play today, son?" And before I could open my mouth, my dad says, "No, I didn't play very well today." And the old dear said something I never forgot. She says, "Well, you must have something, son, or you wouldn't be here."
Yes.
And I remembered that every time I felt a bit down or anything like that, and it spurs you on a bit. And that when I came back from Oldham, I signed for Alloa. I had a trial with Alloa, scored the goal, made two, and that's how I signed.
And your professional football career then kicked on. You've mentioned quite a bit so far in the podcast, hard work and belief. Now, that's the title of your book, Hutch, Hard Work and Belief. And it's written by the son of your manager at Blackpool, isn't it?
No, he's not. I don't think he's his son.
Oh, okay. Is he related? Because they've got
I
the
don't
same
think so.
son.
No,
Oh, have they not? Because it's
no, they're
Les
not.
Shannon and his name's Kevin Shannon, isn't it?
It's Kevin Shannon, but Kevin used to be a big. He was a school teacher. He was a big supporter at Coventry when I was
Well,
at Coventry. He used to go to all the games, and he just decided. He says he'd asked at the club if anybody had written a book on me, and
yeah.
he said no, and he'd retired from school, and he says, well, I would like to have a go at it, and that's what he's done.
Fabulous.
So
And you must be very proud of it, Tommy.
oh yeah, without a doubt. Well, they wanted to call it Mr. Magic because
Yes.
that's what the old chairman used to call me.
You did.
But I wouldn't wear that one. I said you can't call yourself Mr. Magic. I could, somebody else can, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I just felt, he says, well, what do you think you got a career like you did have? And it was exactly that. It was hard work, and I believed in what I was doing.
Absolutely. Who were your heroes growing up, Tommy?
Pardon?
Who was your heroes, your football heroes growing up? Who did you look at and think,
Dennis Law.
yeah, the law man?
And I was unbelievable. Dennis Law, who, and again, you're always told to always view your heroes from afar. And that was exactly the opposite. When I first played for Scotland, he was in the squad that I got picked in,
Yeah.
and he was just exactly what you'd want him to be. When I went into the hotel for the first meeting with the Station Hotel in Glasgow, went in, big man, in you come, have a cup of tea, and I'm thinking, that's Dennis Law talking to me, and I'm thinking, I used to play for the Bluebell. I never played at school, and like most of the players with Scotland, I think if you look back, they all played either schoolboy, international, then under 18s or under 23s. And again, that's what he was. And in fact, when I retired at Merthyr and when I stopped playing altogether, the chairman actually got him to come down and present me with a trophy on a dinner. And that was just fabulous for me.
You retired in 1994, aged 46, and you played over 1,000 games. What did you find was your luckiest and most unluckiest grounds throughout your career, Tommy?
Well, Wembley was my unluckiest. That was an easy one. That was an easy one. That's quite an easy one to pick. The luckiest, I loved playing at Highfield Road. Highfield Road was a good ground, but then again, so was Man City, so was Blackpool's. They were all good. The one probably playing away from home that I always liked to play on was Villa Park.
Okay.
I always enjoyed playing at Villa Park because it always seemed to be sandy and nice and neat. And yeah, I enjoyed playing at Villa Park.
Now, you moved to Blackpool, you played 165 league games, scoring 10 goals, and it was Stan Mortison that was the manager at the time before Les Shannon took over. Again, another legend, wasn't he? Stan, his lucky ground must have been Wembley because he scored a hat-trick in the Matthews final.
Yeah, I never got a mention.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It was.
You scored an own goal and they don't let you forget it.
Yeah, and again, it's there's more people know me for scoring an own goal than Stan for that.
Yeah.
Because even when I was at the schools, when I was working in the schools, the kids didn't know me really. I would say, look, I'd tell them that I'm not Sir, I'm Tommy. You know, right? Sir is Alex Ferguson. I says, but when I come to take them for football, I says, but it's just, that's how it is. And when Stan came for me, and I went to meet him, it was like I was going to my dad. Yeah. He was just so couldn't have been a better man to go to at that stage of my career. Yeah. Not football wise, but growing up. Yeah. He myself, Henry Mobley, and Tony Green all signed at the same time, within months of each other. Tony, in fact, I must have played against Tony in my first game because we played Albion Rovers, and he played for Albion Rovers, and we all stayed in the same digs. But Stan seemed to have that and that. Football-wise, tactics and everything, his favourite one was, come on, boys, another 45 minutes and we'll all be on the drink again. And that was it. Well, he didn't say on the drink. He said something else, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. But there's not one person that I've ever played with for Blackpool when Stan was here would let him down.
Yeah.
You know, because he knew where his heart was. He knew he loved the club. He loved what he was doing. And again, when Tony and I signed for him, it would be every now and again he would know he'd get us, call you in the office and he'd say, "You three, I don't want to see you till Wednesday." And he would give you a tenner for your train fare. He says, "Get yourselves back home." And I think he came down for Gala Shields or something when he was young.
Yeah.
And he must have felt, he knew how he felt. That although we were just, well, I was 19, 20, he just knew we'd be a bit homesick.
Yeah.
You know? And he was absolutely brilliant for that.
Again, great management. Most difficult opponents or teams that you played against throughout your career, Tommy?
I think in the 70s, I think the worst would be go to the Leeds.
Yeah.
You know, they only give you a loan of the ball for a bit, and the fullbacks they were a bit like.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature. Whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today and make the most of your summer with All Trails.
When I played for Scotland against West Germany, when you swapped your shirts with them after the game, you got your own back.
Yeah.
The match of that time.
Yeah.
No, they were just awesome. They were everything that at that they probably didn't get enough praise for it because they were a bit like when I spoke to Terry Yoras, when obviously I played with Terry at Coventry and at Swansea, is that the players were sort of refused to allow themselves to get beat. They were really good, but at the same time, 1-0, 2-0, that was enough. They would shut up shop and keep the ball, which nowadays everybody thinks it's great to score and keep a Man City get it, or Liverpool they get the ball, nobody gets it. They put it in the fridge, they said, and just keep it where and then. In my day, they wanted to see goals, they wanted to see action.
Yeah.
You know, I think there was more ball players than what there was now. You know, you see the stats, the number of passes, number of this, where people want to see goal action and people going past people, and because that draws fouls and that gets the crowd on their feet again. You know, that was the most enjoyable part in the 70s for me.
Absolutely. I never judge players by stats. It's a modern thing. It's the new as they look at stats and they go, well, this player must be this because look at his stats. I always judge a player on what I look at and how I'm entertained by the player.
Yeah.
And if I want to go and watch that player again, I couldn't care less how many times he's given the ball away. He's put a killer ball through, he's scored a goal, or, you know, he's been an absolute breath of fresh air every time he's received the ball. He's been on his toes. He's looking to play forward, and that's as I judge and have always judged players. Sadly, you're spot on. It's about stats.
And I think it sort of put me off playing, watching them playing.
Absolutely.
Because we first had that when I was at Seattle.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you come off the pitch, they handed you a sheet of stats.
And
I used to look at them, and I'm looking, Alan Hudson, no shots at goal.
Yeah.
You're thinking, so what?
Yeah.
Does it matter? So long as he's creating other things for other people, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got somebody else, 68 passes, never gave the ball away, but never hurt anybody. Passed it back to the fullback.
Absolutely.
And like you know, I watch them playing, and I'm thinking, the fullback, and he'll play a cross-field ball, which maybe say from the right side to the left side to me on the wing, which is if he can play a long ball to me, that gives me plenty of time to take the fullback on.
Yeah.
But now you see a change of play like that, and then he rolls it back to the fullback.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, you've just stopped playing holding on, whereas before, my job was get at them, force them to make a mistake, get to the byline and get as many balls into the box as you can. And I think that it got a bit mundane for me watching them. Well, when Barcelona were at their height, you could, if the goalkeeper got the ball at Barcelona, you could go and make a cup of tea and come back, and they'd still be on the halfway line.
Yeah.
You know, it was, which you wouldn't get away with that in my day when the crowds were there. They wanted the ball going forward.
I think our crowds were spoilt because that's what all teams did do in our day in the 70s. Players, teams went forward, tried to score goals. It was a different game. It was a better game. If you could replay one game that you played in during your career, Tommy, what game would it be and why?
I think it was a game against Blackburn Rovers for Blackpool. Yeah. It was the first, and I played against Keith Newton. And it wasn't until later that I found out that the lad that was watching them that day was a scout. Well, he was a coach and scout. It was Tommy Casey from Everton, and they were watching them, and I absolutely tore them to bits. And it was one of those days where you're just not going to stop me. Everything I did, any pass that I played was good. Any cross was good. When I took them on, there was no way I could have beat them either side, any side I wanted. And it was just one of those games where everything come off. And that was the most pleasing one. Other than maybe the one or two for Man City where, you know, we're struggling down the bottom. When I first went there, same with Coventry, we were struggling down the bottom. And you make a couple of good crosses and you get goals from it. That was the most pleasing. I mean, probably my fault that maybe if I'd have had John Bond at an earlier age, I would have done maybe what Pep did to a few players at Man City and score more goals. You know, I tended to be being the provider more than so I must admit I got more pleasure out of creating goals than I did scoring them.
But I think that is a trait of a winger, isn't it? You get more enjoyment making the goals than scoring the goals.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know that the centre forwards are the ones that will make the money. Yeah. Because and again, you're talking about stats. Nobody complains with Hoyland when he scored. They played the other day. They scored the hat trick, touched the ball 8 times. Yeah. You're thinking that's a good ratio. I've had it 200 times and haven't scored. You know, but nobody says anything because he scored goals. Yeah. And, you know, but that's just the trait of the players today, isn't it?
Absolutely. I done a podcast, a Legends podcast with Paul Fletcher, and he said no matter what dressing room you went into, you always had an Englishman, an Irishman, a Scotsman and a Welshman. You had a dresser, you had a comedian, and you had a ladies' man. Who were them characters in your dressing room throughout your career, Tommy?
Well, I think most of the clubs that I've played with, maybe I was an instigator as well, is you always seen the funny side of everything. And you know, I could remember when I was at Blackpool And again, as I said, I was a bit slight at that time. And talking about abuse and what you would get in bullying. We used to get weighed on a Friday, and you would go in under the stand, which was freezing cold. So you're there with shorts, just your shorts on. So you get them weighed and you come back, and you've got to get past I was in the reserve team dressing room. You've got to pass the first team dressing room. Yeah. And as I'm walking past with Tony Green and Henry to the Alan Skirton, who was a big winger that played for Arsenal for a spell, and then he was at us, and then he was at Bristol. Great big lad. And the winger, funny enough, he was a right winger. And just as I'm passing, he shouted, "Oh, what weight were you? Hutchie, what weight were you?" And of course, all the lads in the dressing room, because he's got Jimmy Armfield and Gordon Milne and all Johnny McPhee and all the other, having a laugh. And for some reason, I just turned and came back, and I says, "Alan, what weight should you be?" And of course, the lads all started taking the mick out of him. But that was the way you just to stand up for yourself. Yes. And, you enjoyed it. And I think when I was growing up, playing wise, I think in the dressing room, the best dressed one was Stan Mortensen. He was immaculate. Yeah. And I was lucky enough that it was a trait that I held all the way through my football. Is we went to Bob Stokoe, followed him. Yes. And then Bob Stokoe again was always smart, always immaculate, shoes always gleaming. First one to get us club suits and everything. You felt the part. And I could remember I did that all the way through. When I went to Hong Kong, we played in Hong Kong, and the weather was very humid, and so everybody went in a pair of shorts and t-shirts. Everybody played on the one stadium, the National Stadium in Hong Kong, and we went to it, and flip-flops and whatever, and you've got your boots, you've got everything there, so you've got to look after all your own gear. And I got there, and I come back after a couple of games, and I says to the wife, I says, "Heidi, I can't go to the games like this." I says, "I don't feel as if I'm going to the game. Yeah. I feel as if I'm going to training." And from then on, I wore a collar and tie and a jacket. And I used to take a spare shirt with me because with the humidity, it was that warm. I had to change it after the game. Yeah. And then in the Chinese used to call me Mr. Gentleman because always I went. And again, the funny side of things, before the game, there was a couple of English lads playing for other teams. I said, "Oh, you going to a wedding?" Before the game, I says, "No, I bought this with the last time we played Jews with the bonus money." So that used to shut them up. So I did. That was something that I took from Bob Stokoe, and being well dressed and smart. And again, if you can't be a footballer, at least try and dress like one.
Absolutely. You won the Anglo-Italian at Blackpool in 1971, and whilst in Hong Kong, you played in the 81, which was the 100th FA Cup final.
Yes.
And then in 81, 82, 83, you played in the Hong Kong FA Cup finals as well. So you played in three FA Cup finals on the spin.
Yes. And we won the Welsh Cup as well.
Yes, you did.
Swansea.
1979-80.
Which got us into the Cup Winners' Cup.
You was 42, wasn't you, when you made your debut?
I was 42, and the little fullback behind me was a little lad called Sullivan, who had been at Norwich. And the gaffer says, "That team will get some ragging if there's two years here. You're nearly 90 years between you, and you're running them ragged." Yeah, but I never bothered. My age never bothered me. It only bothered other people. My fitness was the thing that I was always. And I've been lucky. I've been lucky in the sense that the teams that I've played for, like the Blackpool, good pros, good lads that worked hard in training. I had at Coventry again, great set of lads. Willie Carr, Colin Steen. All players that are willing. Even when I went to Seattle, people like Huddy and Mishy, Bruce Rear, Big Roger Davis, when it come to training, it was the same as, the same as when you played on a Saturday. I was lucky in that sense.
Your most appeared club, if that's the right word, you made the most appearances, that's probably a better phrase, was Coventry City between 72 and 81. You made over 300 appearances in the Football League, scoring 24 league goals for Coventry. That was a fantastic kit that you played in, the sky blue and the chocolate kit.
Yeah,
they were very iconic. Well, tell me about them. Talk about them days at Coventry.
Well, the chocolate one was the best one because I made quite a bit of money out of that one because I used to go down on a Sunday, we'd go down for a pint down to the working men's club with my next door neighbour because we lived on a little housing estate. Went down there and he worked at Massey Ferguson's and we'd go down for a pint and big City fans and we'd go down there for a pint and they'd say, lads, what do you think the kit's going to be next year? Oh, could be green? No, it's been green before, it was grey and black. I says, I'll give you 3 guesses for £1. And honestly, none of them, well, nobody, I wouldn't have even got, and when I told them chocolate bag, no way, but it was. And I think the first game we played against was Derby County,
right,
when we wore it. And Tommy Duck was the manager, and he says, oh, the light chocolate bars will melt in the sun. We beat them 3-0. He wasn't so happy after the game.
SRBMedia. And you can find the full episode of this podcast at www.patreon.com/SRBmedia.